A billionaire's empire is crumbling. Hackers have drained his accounts, his tech team is useless, and panic is setting in. But when all hope is lost, the person he least expects steps forward to save everything. The quiet cleaning lady. You won't believe her secret past and the shocking truth she reveals. Get ready for a story that will make you rethink everyone you've ever ignored. Stick around to see how an unlikely hero saves a fortune and changes a man's life forever. Jonathan Price, the billionaire tech mogul, slammed his fist onto the desk, watching the numbers on his computer screen plummet with terrifying speed. His empire, built over decades of hard work and strategic investments, was crumbling right in front of his eyes. The funds in his company account were draining, his stock value dropping, and the hackers had left no trace except for chaos. Panic set in. "Where is everyone?" Jonathan muttered, rubbing his eyes, feeling the weight of his own failure. He'd spent years building this, and now, in a matter of minutes, it could all vanish. He quickly dialed his chief of security. No answer. He dialed the IT team. Silence. The money was gone. Every second felt like a hammer smashing through his chest. What was he going to do? He had no idea how to stop it. His employees had no idea what was happening. His friends and colleagues, the ones who had once admired his success, were now silent in the face of disaster. Jonathan stared at the screen, trying to comprehend what had just happened. The company he'd built, the future he'd dreamed of, it was all slipping away. Desperation crept in, and his eyes scanned the room, looking for some kind of solution. Across the office, Mariah, the cleaning lady, continued her usual routine, quietly pushing her cart along the polished floors, wiping down counters, and sweeping up the dust. She had worked for Jonathan for the last 2 years. No one really noticed her. She wasn't part of the team, not in any official sense. She was just the person who came in every morning, cleaning the office while everyone else hustled in their high-powered world. But today, something was different. She couldn't help but notice the tension in the air. It was thick, palpable. Jonathan's office, usually a sanctuary of control and calm, now felt like a battlefield. Mariah moved closer to his desk, her cleaning supplies clinking softly in her cart. She noticed his disheveled look, the way his hands trembled as he frantically clicked through windows on his computer. She had always kept to herself, never getting involved in the drama that swirled around Jonathan's life. But today she couldn't ignore the obvious distress. She cleared her throat gently, drawing his attention. "Mr. Price?" she said softly. Jonathan's head snapped up, his eyes wild with panic. "What is it?" he snapped. I noticed something on your screen, sir," Mariah said hesitantly. She had no idea if she should even be speaking up, but something inside her urged her to do so. She wasn't a tech expert, but her sharp eyes had picked up a few things. Jonathan stared at her, disbelief written all over his face. "What do you mean, noticed something on my screen? I'm in the middle of a crisis, and you're telling me you saw something?" Mariah took a step closer, her eyes scanning the screen. She wasn't sure what it was, but she had seen enough to understand there was a pattern. I think it's a hack, sir. Your account, it's being drained. But it's not just random. It's someone inside the system. It's someone who knows how to cover their tracks." Jonathan laughed bitterly, but there was no humor in it. "Great. And what do you expect me to do? Call the cops? I've already done that. You think anyone's going to care about a small glitch in the system? My entire life is going up in smoke." Mariah swallowed hard, unsure if she was crossing a line, but she couldn't stand by and do nothing. "I've worked in tech before, Mr. Price," she said. Her voice was quiet but firm. "I may not be a professional like your team, but I know a thing or two about hacking. If you'll let me, I can help you." Jonathan looked at her for a long moment, his mind racing. He could feel the seconds slipping away. There was no one else in the building who could help. But her? The cleaning lady? She wasn't even on his radar. But in that moment of desperation, he had nothing to lose. "What are you talking about? You're a cleaner. What do you know about hacking?" Jonathan shot back, though there was a flicker of doubt in his eyes. Mariah's expression softened, but she didn't back down. "It's true. I used to be in the business of security. I've seen this kind of thing before. I can find the traces they left behind. You don't need your tech team for this. You need someone who's been on both sides of the game." Jonathan stared at her, disbelief fighting with the flicker of hope that ignited in his chest. His mind was racing. Could this woman, the cleaner, really be the one to save him? It was absurd, but then again, nothing about his situation made sense anymore. "Fine," he said finally, his voice low and filled with frustration. "What do I have to lose?" Mariah nodded, walking over to the desk and positioning herself at the computer. She adjusted the keyboard, tapping a few keys and quickly scanning the code running across the screen. She didn't need any special software. She could see the digital footprints left behind by the hackers. Jonathan watched her fingers fly across the keyboard with precision, her focus absolute. It was like watching a master at work, and for the first time in hours, Jonathan felt something other than panic, a glimmer of hope. Mariah's calm demeanor was like a lifeline in a storm. "They've locked you out of the system," she said softly, "but I can reverse this." Jonathan leaned in, his mind still reeling from the absurdity of it all. "Are you telling me you can fix this? You can fix my company?" Mariah didn't look up, her attention fully on the screen. "Give me a minute. I'll have it done before anyone even knows what hit them." As she worked, Jonathan took a deep breath. His mind couldn't help but race. This wasn't just any ordinary cleaning lady. This was someone who had been quietly watching the world go by, and somehow, against all odds, she was now the key to saving everything he had built.
He watched her work, his mind still in shock. How had he never noticed her before? She had always kept to herself, quietly going about her work, never drawed attention to herself. But now, as she effortlessly navigated through the technical chaos that had nearly destroyed him, he saw her in a whole new light. Jonathan wasn't sure what came over him, but he felt a surge of gratitude toward her. He wanted to thank her, but the words felt inadequate. What could he say to the person who was single-handedly saving everything he had built? He wanted to offer her a job, a place in his company, but he wasn't sure she would even accept it. "Done," Mariah said, her voice cutting through the heavy silence in the room. She turned the screen toward Jonathan, showing him the data she had just recovered. The funds had been restored. The hacker's presence was wiped from the system. His accounts were back to normal. Jonathan's jaw dropped. He blinked a few times, unsure if what he was seeing was real. But it was real. His empire, his fortune, his company, everything was back. In the span of just a few minutes, Mariah had done what no one else had been able to. I don't believe it," Jonathan whispered, staring at the screen in disbelief. "You actually did it." Mariah shrugged. "Like I said, I know how to get things done." Jonathan let out a breath he hadn't realized he had been holding. His mind was racing. How is this possible? This woman, who had always been a quiet observer in the background, had just saved his entire company from disaster. She had done what his best experts and tech professionals couldn't even dream of. He stood up slowly, still trying to process the enormity of what had just happened. "How did you even know how to do all of this?" he asked again, his voice still filled with wonder. Mariah glanced at him, her expression softening for a brief moment. "I used to work in the field. Before I started cleaning, I was a hacker. I have my own business, securing systems, protecting people from the same kinds of attacks. But that life didn't suit me anymore, so I walked away from it." Jonathan blinked in disbelief. He had no idea. He had never asked her anything about her past. To him, she had always just been the woman who cleaned the floors and emptied the trash. He never imagined she could be so much more. Um, I'm sorry, Jonathan stammered, his mind still reeling from the revelation. You were a professional hacker. Mariah smiled faintly, her eyes still focused on the screen. It's in the past. I don't do that anymore. But I'm still good at it. And when I saw your account being drained, I knew I had to do something. Jonathan shook his head, still stunned. I don't even know what to say. I've been fighting this thing for hours, trying to get my people to fix it. And you didn't have anyone you could trust. But sometimes the solution is closer than you think. It's easy to miss the help right in front of you. Jonathan felt the weight of her words. She was right. He had been so focused on his high-powered tech team, on his own wealth and success, that he had overlooked the one person who had the ability to save him. Without thinking, he stepped closer to her. I don't know how to thank you. This is everything. Mariah glanced up at him, her expression unreadable. You don't have to thank me. You just need to learn to trust the people around you, even if they don't fit the mold you're used to. Jonathan opened his mouth to say something more, but the words caught in his throat. For the first time in his life, he realized just how much he had taken for granted, and how easily it all could have slipped away. Jonathan stood in stunned silence, staring at Mariah as she calmly finished securing the system. The weight of her words lingered in his mind. She was right. He had been so focused on his wealth, his empire, and the people he thought he could trust that he had completely ignored the one person who had the skills and heart to save him. He looked at her, his voice finally finding its way. I never thought I would be saying this, but you just saved my company. You saved my life. Mariah stood up from the desk, wiping her hands on the cleaning cloth she had been holding, her gaze not wavering. You don't need to thank me, Mr. Price. I'm just doing my job, as I always do. Jonathan didn't know what to say. There were no words that could adequately express his gratitude. His mind was racing. The hack, the loss, the panic, it had all been so overwhelming. And now it was over. All of it. Gone. Reversed. His company was saved, and he owed it all to Mariah, the woman who had cleaned his office every day, the woman he had never thought to truly get to know. I don't know how to process this, Jonathan said quietly, still staring at the screen where the account balance was stable again. I've had a team of tech experts working around the clock, and no one could do what you just did. How did you know what to do? Mariah's eyes softened for a moment, but she quickly masked her expression. I told you. I used to work in cybersecurity. I built systems to protect companies from hacks like this. I just saw the signs. The way they breached your account, it wasn't a random attack. It was calculated. Jonathan sat back in his chair, completely humbled. I didn't realize, he murmured. All these years, I've been treating people like people who are just here to serve. I never took the time to see who they really were. And you saved everything. Mariah didn't respond immediately. She simply began packing up her cleaning supplies, clearly not expecting any praise. Jonathan noticed this, his guilt beginning to grow. He had seen Mariah as nothing more than a part of his routine, an invisible cog in the machine. Now, she was more than that. She was the one who had salvaged everything he held dear. I need to make it right, he said, standing up. His voice was steady, but his mind was filled with thoughts of how to make amends. He couldn't just let this moment pass without doing something. Mariah, I know this might be awkward, but I want to offer you a job, working with my security team. You've got skills that we need. Mariah paused, her back still turned as she continued to clean. She didn't face him right away. When she finally did, there was no trace of surprise or excitement in her expression. I'm happy with my job, Mr. Price. I clean. That's all I need. Jonathan frowned, perplexed. I understand, but you've just shown me that you're capable of so much more. You're not just a cleaner, Mariah. You could be a part of something bigger here. Mariah's eyes softened for a moment, but she quickly shook her head. No, Mr. Price. I've seen what ambition can do to people. I've seen what it did to you. You're not the only one who's paid the price for getting caught up in it all. I'm happier living my life as it is. I don't need the power or the prestige. Jonathan stood there, speechless, feeling a mix of admiration and regret. She wasn't interested in the things that had consumed him for so long. Power, money, prestige. It was all empty to her. It made him realize how far he had strayed from what really mattered. Mariah didn't wait for him to respond. She grabbed her cart and began rolling it toward the door, her back straight, her steps firm. She wasn't looking for accolades, recognition, or a place in the high towers of his world. She had already found her peace. Jonathan stood still, watching her leave. As the door clicked shut behind her, he felt a deep sense of loss. Not for his company or the wealth he had nearly lost, but for the realization that he had spent so much of his life focusing on the wrong things. The days that followed were a blur for Jonathan. His company was recovering thanks to the swift action of Mariah, but something had shifted in him that couldn't be undone. He found himself questioning his entire existence, the way he had treated his employees, the way he had built his wealth, and the way he had never truly seen the people around him. He tried to reach out to Mariah, but she was distant. Her refusal to join his team, to take any recognition for her role in saving his company, stuck with him. He realized she wasn't interested in anything he had to offer. She had everything she needed. She had peace. One morning, a week later, Jonathan found himself standing at the same desk where Mariah had saved his life. He sat down and ran his fingers over the keyboard just like she had. He opened the account dashboard, marveling at the clean lines of code she had left behind. For the first time, he saw what she had seen. The world she worked in was different from his, but somehow it made more sense. Later that day, Jonathan decided to take a walk around the city, clear his head. He found himself near a park, and for some reason, he ended up at a small cafe. The street was busy, but it felt different today. He didn't feel as important, as powerful as he once did. And then, he saw her. Mariah was sitting at a small table by the window, a book in her hands. She looked exactly the same, quiet, unassuming, content. It was as if she had never left, as if she had always known that this life was all she needed.